Many people want to write a book, but not many of them really become writers. And that's a problem because there is so much we want to do, but we don't take the necessary steps to do that. People want to be athletes, people want to be artists, people want to paint or write or travel, do something exciting, but they never become these people. And today I just want to give you 3 straightforward steps of how to become a writer. Those steps are really straightforward, nothing complicated about them, but they will cost you something. They will cost you the comfort of your life right now. They will cost you the comfort of your sofa, the comfort of your current job, your current state of affairs, your current everyday life. But if you really want to become a writer, here are 3 really straightforward, simple steps you can take to be one. And if you have a dream, don't postpone this dream. Just start doing it now. You don't have to have money, you don't have to be famous, you don't have to be a genius. Whatever dream this is, it doesn't have to be writing, it can be art, it can be painting, being an artist, being an athlete, whatever it is. I just I specify it on the writing part, but you can use those tips for everything you want. Don't postpone your dreams, just start living them now, because this is really simple and easy to do, unless you don't want to pay the price and you don't want to change your everyday life. So let's jump straight into it. Number 1, change your identity. And this is quite easier said than done. If you have read Atomic Habits by James Clear, a book I'm going to refer to a lot in this video, and if you want to know more, just read this book because it's amazing. He says that habit change can be achieved through identity change, because when we want to change habits, when we want to do something, we only scratch the surface because we concentrate on the outcome. Like, I want to be healthy, I want to exercise, I want to lose weight, but we don't change our identity, the thing that lies behind, the belief system that lies behind. And the same goes for writing. If you want to be a writer, you really have to change your belief system. You have to call yourself a writer. And it's a really hard step to do, because we think in order to call ourselves writers, we have to be successful, write a bestseller, release 10 plus books, and so on. No, a writer is someone who writes. So if you want to be a writer, start calling yourself a writer, and then prove it to yourself that you are indeed a writer by taking the small steps and writing, actually writing. So whenever the occasion comes up, be it to your friends, family, or to yourself even, don't be afraid to call yourself a writer and say, I'm a writer, I want to write, I'm an author. And this first step will really change your identity, it will change your heart. Once I started calling myself a writer, not being afraid about it, not being afraid, because at the same time, when you call yourself a writer, you kind of you get this responsibility. Yeah, I'm calling myself a writer, so I have to do something. I have to write. I have to publish books. And it's a good thing, because you're not pressuring yourself, but you're changing your identity from the inside out by calling yourself a writer and thinking about yourself as a writer. You will change who you want to become, and you will see the outcome changing. This is the underlying belief. If you don't believe that you are a writer and you have what it takes to be a writer, you will never become one. If you say, yeah, my writing is bad, I'm not really a writer, just trying to write something, this is what you'll be. You will always be someone who just tries to do something. You will never be a real writer. So step number 1 is change your identity and start calling yourself a writer in public and to yourself. Step number 2 is design your surroundings and create habits. So being a writer means writing, and get away from this imagination of I'll sit down one night and crack out the bestseller ever, like this one night, this one breakthrough. Don't focus on that. Instead, focus on your everyday life and start creating the habit of writing. Write every day. This is the second step. Once you call yourself a writer, you have to sit down and you have to write every single day. Don't break the chain of writing. In his book, James Clear says, whatever habit you're trying to achieve, Don't break this chain, don't break the motion, because once you do it, it will be harder to get in. So start writing every day, and when you fall off the wagon, it's allowed to fall off, but only one day at a time. So when you don't write one day, you have to write the next day. You can't skip 2 days in a row. And I actually like this principle. And you might think that you don't have time to write, but this is a lie. You can take 15 minutes a day to write, or even 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes if this is a problem for you. Get yourself a timer, start with 5 minutes, and just write. It actually doesn't matter what you write in the beginning. Of course, it's good when you have the idea for a book, when you have plans, when you have projects or articles you want to work on. But if you don't stress yourself out. Or if you're in between projects, for example, you still have to keep this writing habit going. So get yourself a timer and just start writing something, a short story, an improv of something, ideas, whatever you write, it doesn't matter. Just write. There's this idea of the morning pages, if you've heard that you just sit down in the morning before you do anything, if you can do it. For me, it's quite hard because, my little girl wakes me up at 6 a.m. and I'm not in the mood to do anything, and especially with a baby, it's impossible. But you can also do it maybe in the evening. But in the morning, it's better because your creative juices are still flowing, and your subconscious is more active than your conscious mind. So yeah, if you can do it in the morning, sit down, get yourself a timer of 5, 10, or 15 minutes, or give yourself like a deadline of 3 pages or 5 pages or whatever, and just write in free flow. This is supposed to do wonders for artists. This is supposed to unleash creative potential. I have to say that I haven't started it yet for myself, but I did something similar and it really helped me. So I think if you can do the morning pages every day and get into the habit, it will really unleash your writing creative potential. But if you don't, just write anything. Just write on your projects, but write. Try to create the same time every day, if you can. Ideally in the mornings. If you can't, like me, I have to write in the evenings because when I put my child to bed. But whatever works for you, but you have to write every day. The second thing is create your ideal workspace and rearrange your environment for writing. So find an ideal place where you can write, where your creative juice is flowing. For example, Joanna Penn likes to write in a busy cafe with headphones on. I actually quite like that as well, but I think I prefer to have my desk, my writing desk, and some people actually have like 2 desks. The one is just for writing and being creative, and the other one is for everything else, like marketing and editing and all the other stuff. So yeah, whatever works for you, you have to create your ideal space, and this space can only be found by trial and error. So try things out and see what works for you. And the other thing about surroundings is tell people not to disturb you. So if you're writing for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour or 2 or whatever, tell people in your environment, your spouse, your roommate, whoever could disturb you in that very moment, tell them to not disturb you, because this is a really important time. If you want to get into the flow state of writing, and if you want to be effective in this short amount of time where you write, you have to tell people that this time is important for you and you don't want to be disturbed unless it's an emergency, of course. And the other thing, turn your phone off. Turn it to airplane mode, or there are like apps that can be programmed to turn off your internet or different social media apps for a certain time, and you can't like go back to them in that amount of time. I think one of the apps is called Freedom. So yeah, do that and create your environment so you are not tempted to go to social media, to the internet, and be distracted from your writing. Be really intentful about it and create your environment to help you reach your goals and build your habits. And on the other hand, you also get like a trigger for that. So every time I go to a cafe, or to this particular cafe, I'm writing, or every time I sit down at this desk, I'm writing, or every time I put on my headphones, I'm writing, or I sip on my morning coffee, I'm writing. And whatever this trigger is for you, you help your brain create a trigger that sets off the habit loop. And the other thing about the habit and the creating of your environment are the people that surround you. So try not to be with people who discourage you, who destroy your dream, who tell you that this is nonsense, you will never be a writer, pursue a normal career, be like everyone else, and so on and so on. Try to stay away from those people. And on the other hand, find yourself people who will encourage you and who are at that point where you want to be. Find yourself mentors that you can follow. And if there are no mentors around you in your environment, with your friends, find mentors online. We live in an amazing world where you can really follow people and find mentors online and people who inspire you, who are at that point where you want to be. Like for me, it's Joanna Pant, for example, and I always listen to her podcast, and I love her philosophy about writing and being a businesswoman and the way she builds her business. And she's somebody who is someone I look up to, and someone who encourages me every week and every day that this is possible and that I can get to that point in a certain amount of time. So find yourself people who will encourage you, build your environment in order to encourage your habit, in order to build your habit, because willpower alone will not suffice. If you think that you don't have to create your environment, change your friends, and build a habit, and that you can crack out a novel in a night, this might work for a certain amount of time, or maybe for one book, but it will never be a strategy that is lasting for a long time, and it will never make you a writer. A writer is someone who writes regularly, and in order to build that habit, you have to change your identity, and then you have to change your environment in order to help yourself build that habit for a long time. And there was actually a great story in Atomic Habits that really inspired me about a professor at the University of Florida, I think it was, who had two groups of students, photography students, and he divided his class at the very beginning into two groups. One of the groups would be graded on the quality of their photo. They had to submit one single photo which had to be perfect, and the quality of this photo would be graded. The other book would be graded solely on the quantity of the photos. So no matter how good they are, just the sum of the photos would make the grade. And he was surprised to find that the best photos were in the second group, in the quantity group. Why is it? Because those people, they just did things. They just shot pictures, and they started experimenting with things. They started to try out new things, and they got the better photos than those who just sat there and were planning and thinking and planning the perfect picture. And this is the same with writing. You don't have to I think it's good to invest into craft. It's good to take courses, but it's even better when you then sit down and start writing. You have to write every single day. You have to practice. You have to sum up the quantity of your writing days, and then your quality will be better. Not the other way around. You don't have to think about, oh, what's the best way? I read the writing books, craft books, take courses. It's a good thing, and you have to invest into your craft. But the best and first investment you can do is actually writing. And step number 3 is don't give up. And I love this example that James Clear is pointing to in his book, and he calls it the plateau of latent potential. And he describes that this is with many things in nature and in life, that a potential builds on below the surface that we cannot see, and then it just explodes into the air. For example, like the bamboo tree. For the first 5 years, you can barely see the bamboo tree because it builds a potential like underneath the ground, and then it explodes into the air in the first 6 weeks, in the next 6 weeks. So, what I want to say about that when you start writing, for a long time, nothing will happen. I mean, in terms of success, in terms of you being a writer and people starting to read your books and love you and being your super fans. But this is actually a good thing, because you're building potential underneath. if you just stick to the habit, if you stick to your identity as a writer, and if you stick to your habit of writing daily and publishing and writing the next book and publishing and getting better in your craft and in your knowledge about the market of writing and publishing and so on, one day the potential that you gathered underneath the surface will explode, and it will look like you are an overnight success. But overnight success is actually a myth. There is no overnight success. People start doing things below the surface, things that nobody sees, for years and years until their potential explodes. So never give up. And this is actually the time where you want to give up is the most important time, where you have to stick to it. You have to go on, and you have to believe in the thing you set out to do, because it will work one day, because you are a writer indeed. And you have to be consistent. This is really important. Be consistent. Don't give up. Write daily. Do the small things. And the whole atomic habit system is about the atomic things, the small things. And he actually gives lots of great examples where people changed small things and their success exploded. So this is actually a small thing. If you start writing every day, and you can start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and grow up to 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever works for you. If you start calling yourself a writer and writing every day and never give up, you will see the success explode one day. And until that day, don't give up, but grow in the potential, in your potential as a writer, as an author, that maybe is not seen to everybody else, but it's building below the surface and will explode one day.